I need support staff to clear the room. Stand up and walk, now.
Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at TheRinger.com, and joining me in the studio, his HBO Max bumper sticker is back in style. It's Andy Greenwald.
I still had the original HBO Max tile undeleted, but it doesn't...
From your Apple TV app?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it hasn't come back in style, like that gum I like. The new one turned into the old one.
I'm sorry to hear that. I can help you clean that
Would
stuff
you
up.
do
Do you
that?
know how to do that? To clean up your Apple TV tiles? Greenwald, it's great to see you today. We're going to discuss the last 3 episodes of the Eternaut. I have some Slow Horses news. I have some Superman questions for you.
Yeah.
It's great to see you. You can email us at thewatch@spotify.com. Please send in more emails. We love them. We are doing a mailbag episode to be released either next week or the week after, but we will be recording it soon. So fire off some emails if you guys have any questions.
Isn't it funny the way email has become the courtly, old-fashioned, polite
I know.
way?
It's like Robert Lowell and
to communicate.
Elizabeth What's-Her-Face.
Elizabeth What's-Her-Face. Dear Ms. What's-Her-Face at hotmail.co.uk.
Can I be honest? That's the only reference I ever make to letters is Robert Lowell and Elizabeth Bishop, because it's the only ones that I think I've ever read any of.
You know, you used to get a lot of mileage out of, in the 2000s. You would dunk on me for my love of 18th century epistolary novels.
Yes.
Which was a great double flex, because you could dunk on me, but also use the word epistolary correctly. I feel like you really dined out on that.
Do I not use the word epistolary? Right?
How often does it come? No, you use it right.
Okay.
But how often does it come up? Until now, we have an epistolary relationship with our fans.
That's true. They can also contact us and share their feelings about our content on Instagram.
Okay.
On the WatchPod _. Right. Do you want to talk about that?
No. Well, here's what I wanted to talk about with you guys. I feel like this is, we used to have loosey-goosey Thursdays or whatever. Mm-hmm. We never quite got the branding right. But look, it's just us chickens in this dark room. You, me, Kaya in the shadows. And I wanted to check in with you guys because I feel like it's been about a year since we, like the rest of the internet and the New York Times, pivoted to video. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get a sense from you guys how you feel like it's going. This is not a loaded question.
First of all, it is not. It's not even been close to a year.
It's been 3 months.
No, it's actually, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
So about 2 years in internet time.
I've been on video for a while.
I've been admiring it. I've been loving it. I just want, so no other thoughts, feedback right now? I'm still waiting on the wardrobe budget to come in, but I feel like that's
I just think you have unrealistic expectations about what's going to happen for us because of video. We're not going to get draped up in cool new clothes because of it.
Shut up, big brother. brother, I mean, sorry. Got the name wrong. Sorry, Gary. Shout out Big Brother, though, really, for making us pivot to video. I guess the reason why I came up, and I feel like you were leading me there, is that, people, Kai, you've been working with us for a while now. And we love it. We love her, don't we, folks? And I just think that pre-video, though, I thought of Kaya like the way Regis and Kelly thought of Gelman. Is that
definitely a reference, Kaya's?
Is that a reference people get? Do you get that reference, Kaya?
Not in the slightest.
Okay, so, and I think he's still the producer of the Kelly show, whatever it is now. But the Kelly Ripa show. For 25 years has had the same executive producer, a mild-mannered fellow named Gelman, who's just always off camera, but he's on camera a lot, being like, "Oh, sorry about that, Kelly and Michael,"
or whoever the host is. Do you know that he's a mild-mannered fellow named, what if his name was Gelman, but he looked like Frank Grillo? He
does not.
Okay.
I researched this bit. Nothing else that we do on the podcast I researched. And so I thought that was kind of, like you're there to support us. You chime in. You have your own opinions, which are great and always welcome here. However, when the raw footage of the podcast is we leave it and it's in Kaya's hands, she becomes that dude in the muscle tee from TMZ, just chopping it up for likes and for engagement. Because I walked out of the podcast on Monday being like, boy, it's fun to talk to my best friend about a rock group we've loved for 30 years, Oasis. Okay, maybe I feel like they haven't always been the best live band, but fuck, it's one of the greatest bands. Meaningful to us. Sitting around minding my own business when the latest reel from the WatchPod drops from fucking the Bravo producer over here. And it's basically
the landlord of Summer House.
It's just 50 seconds of me being essentially being like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
And turns out if you have to cross a fan base, 50-year-old drunk Mancunians is not the one you want to cross.
Sure. Sure.
People are real mad. But Kaya, it's working. Because right now we're at
it's like I post a clip of you guys being slightly negative about Oasis.
Look at this.
It gets does really well. It gets 1,600 likes. Then I post a clip of you guys being glowing about the Eternaut. It's crickets.
Yeah, being thoughtful doesn't matter. Being controversial does.
On the internet.
Yeah.
So 180,000 people, their introduction to us, presumably, is me being like, Liam looks uncomfortable when he sings. That's stupid.
These guys have never really been good at dialogue. Yeah. That's not how you talk, by the way.
Do more. Stretch this out a little bit.
Well, welcome to the internet, brother. I don't know what to tell you.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough out here.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, the majority of the internet, look, I am not blameless here. The majority of the internet I consume is two British people standing with a microphone, best pie and mash.
Yeah.
Laystones.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
Those guys somehow found success while being positive. I don't know why we can't,
Do you think that we would do better, though, if we had, a guest and we just had one microphone for all three of us in this, right? And we're best long form IP streaming on Netflix.
Yeah,
and
but I think it would
dark, mate. We're
it would do better if we got out of the cave from Descent here, the Descent. I think that you'll survive this brush.
That's fine. I just wonder if, because now
with online fandom,
we are.
Somehow I think you've toughened up.
I'm doing great, but somehow I still want to go to the show.
Me too.
I do think that.
Do you guys want to take a solid minute just praising Oasis, and then I can?
It's just pain, because we spent a solid 2 decades praising Oasis. It's worth noting, I just don't know how to read the room, because if I had been some of the later Blur albums don't hit as hard, all the Blur fans would have been like, yeah, it's kind of true, isn't it?
I said as much on Bandsplain when I did that, and people were just like, this guy's American, but he knows what he's talking about. It's not what they said.
That's what they say about everything you do.
No.
You don't think the avatars are coming for you?
I think we're finding out that maybe there are not as many Avatar fans as we thought there were. Or maybe,
right.
Much like some political leaders in this country, a great majority was out there, and they just needed their voices heard.
They needed their angry take king to finally give voice to them.
Can we talk a little bit about the world of television?
Fine, but I do think we should continue this conversation. First of all, Kaya got off scot-free.
Yes. Yeah.
Incredible. Just skating by again.
She actually probably got a bonus this week for creating some
engagement farming. I do think we should talk about ways we can iterate in this video age. That's all.
Okay. Here's some ways that Apple TV is iterating.
Oh.
They just renewed Slow Horses for 3 seasons more. For 3 more seasons. We completed the 4th season. I know that they already said that the 5th season was coming.
This is one of those little extra extensions that you get to get under the second apron.
This is the Devin Booker. We just are here's...
This is the Devin Booker.
Yes. So obviously, big fans of Slow Horses. Season 4 was last fall, I believe.
It's now switched to kind of a fall thing.
Spring-fall thing.
Mm-hmm.
And... season 5 is coming in September, I believe, is the date.
Right.
That would be based on, if we're going by the books that McCarran wrote for Slough House, that would be London Rules, which we can talk about in a second. But the, I guess, surprise is that Apple also announced that they were renewing the show for season 6 and 7.
No, 5 and 6 were already announced.
Yes.
They've tacked on 7.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't that significant or historically relevant.
What it is, and I feel like maybe this is hidden inside this probably not that interesting response to your point, is the secret sauce of what makes Slow Horses great, which is this is just all reasonable. Yeah. This is how these things should go. They are
in a perfect world, you would have something that was cost controlled to some extent.
Yeah.
They know how to make this relatively efficiently. I mean, obviously.
Seems like it.
I mean, they must. I think that the only thing where you can see some seams developing in these sort of mid-period Slow Horses seasons, and we talked about this for last season, was Jack Loudon's character was largely in a field in France for most of the season and away from the rest of the Slow Horses, and that wasn't as fun, and whether or not we're starting to see this person's schedule, that person's schedule, how do you kind of make everything work? Gary Oldman obviously has said that he will play this character for as long as they want him to.
I think that the main thing that they have been able to embrace, and we'll see how it goes, is that correct me if I'm wrong, if I read this wrong, but in the announcement for season 7, Will Smith, not that one and not the other one, the Slow Horses one, is
so
not.
There would be Will Smith, the rapper actor.
Always a rapper first for us.
Then Will Smith, the catcher
Of the Dodgers, yeah.
and now Will Smith, the writer,
The
of Slow
showrunner.
Horses, yeah.
Only one of them has been on the podcast, so I feel like he should be Will Smith
Well, we were
prime.
very into the Dodgers that summer.
No, you just wanted to talk to a fellow battery mate, like just talk about like crouching.
Yeah, get the Benito Santiago leg out. Yeah.
Do you feel like you still watch baseball games from the perspective of the catcher? Like, are you thinking about how the catcher is calling the game?
I don't think you can do that anymore. I feel like everything is like little in-ears and radios and
the second baseman has the radio too now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then Altuve has a radio too because he knows where every pitch is
Just banging
going.
the trash cans.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, it appears that the Emmy-winning showrunner of Slow Horses, Will Smith, is not going to be showrunning season 7.
Yeah, doesn't he go one on, one off, basically?
Well, I should have been more prepared for this. I think the bigger point, though, is there were decisions made early on at a high level to guarantee the consistency and fluidity of this show.
Yes.
And those types of decisions are rarely made in advance in television, and they are rarely made with this, what appears to be very like this peacefully, frankly. And when we think about a show that we loved this year, that we immediately were like, oh, this could be Netflix's Slow Horses. This could run forever. There's plenty of books to base it on. It's Department Q.
Yeah.
Department Q is still, for as wonderful as it is perched very firmly in a different model of TV making, which is Scott Frank's like, well, it took a lot out of me to make this entire show myself. I guess I got to see if I can dig deep and do it again.
Sure.
It has not yet been renewed. It doesn't mean haven't had conversations. The decision may have been made, but if Department Q was going to be Netflix's Slow Horses, the next series would already be
done. Yeah.
Done filming.
Yeah.
So I just shout out to Apple TV's UK operation.
It's one of the great pleasures of the decade has been Slow
Yeah.
Horses, and also the fact that we know there's more Slow Horses coming.
And I think there's a new
so
book.
much hand-wringing about cancellations,
Yeah.
about whether we're going to bring it back, how long it's going to take to get back to the screens, to have a show that's this reliably satisfying, and know that like basically Gary Oldman is like, I'll just do this.
Yep.
This is cool. Like
I'm
I
good.
get to be in London and fart and smoke
Go on.
and talk to Kristen Scott Thomas. It's a good job.
This is why we both want to just move there, right? You just pretty much nailed it. And there's another book coming out this fall. So there's still more.
Yeah, I think this will be the 10th, right?
9th, officially.
Okay.
9th. It's called Clown Town. It's a good name.
You want to talk a little bit about Superman before we see it? We haven't seen it.
Okay.
I just wanted to get a temp check.
Wait, can I do one other TV thing?
By all means.
What a weird, this is buried because I don't think anyone was checking for it. And it was buried, obviously in the huge, exciting headline news of HBO Max becoming HBO Max again.
Mhm.
But speaking of Max programming, did you follow this week's, as in Monday until this morning's Duster news cycle?
I did.
So Duster was a show that we checked out and we said, thank you, but no thank you.
Mhm.
My assumption was that so did many of the viewers, but I don't know that. It seems to have a high Rotten Tomatoes score, which, as we know from our coverage of Ironheart, is always a true indicator of fandom.
I love that you called it coverage. Yeah.
Right. Well, I sort of tried to get my arms around it.
We've come back from our time overseas at the Ironheart desk. Yeah. Go ahead.
I still feel bad. I didn't actually. One of the things I liked about that show, no one's going to be hearing me say this, but the title screens, when it like formed the name of the show out of like the food on the table,
Yeah.
I was like, that was clever. It was stylish.
I thought that there were lots of things that were clever about the limited amount of Ironheart that I saw.
Well, there's more out there for you. I don't mean there's new seasons. I just mean
yeah,
you didn't
there's-
actually watch
yeah.
more of it.
Yeah.
So on Monday, it was a mini story that Josh Holloway was like, what I'd love for Duster season 2 is Walton Goggins to be in it. And that generated a little bit of like, oh, damn, my internet boyfriends is going to be riding around in the 70s together. And today came the news that there will not, in fact, be a Duster
Yes.
season 2.
Yeah.
I kind of respected the move, the hope casting. Of like, if we did
I
it.
don't think it was a move. Here's what I think is happening now.
Okay.
Is that people do junkets, and the only questions they are getting asked is
about Walton Goggins and Amy Lee
no,
Wood.
it's like, what's your top 4 Letterboxd movies? What did you think of like the end of Lost? And if I was Josh Holloway, any Tom Cruise stories from Mission Impossible? Like, it's only what can I turn into? A former Lost star says Tom Cruise was a dick.
Best curry in London.
And best curry in
Best
London.
fry up.
Yeah. And do you think Oasis get along?
Do you think Oasis are a good live band?
Yeah. So I bet what happened was
Kaya's sharpening her
like,
knives over there. She's like, this is gonna cook.
But I bet somebody was like, who would you love to see on Duster season 2? And he was like, I don't fucking know, Walton Goggins. And it turned into like Josh Holloway bets it all on Walton Goggins coming on to season 2.
Okay.
You got played by big media.
Wow. How did you get so media savvy about stuff?
I've been wasting my time underwater with the Na'vi, you know? I've been seeing things for what they are.
It's impressive.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Superman because I'm all over the place on this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm with you.
I'm
sorry, Kaya. I disagree, Chris. I'm in one place with Superman. It's called fucking Krypton. Now, some might say this planet is unstable. That this is some sort of environmental crisis. I don't. You can get in your little baby pod and flee. But those of us who love Krypton, who put Krypton first, we're staying right here. Okay? Have fun, Kal-El.
Is that your Daily Planet editorial?
Except Daily Planet about to blow up editorial, yeah.
Have you found that this has been the movie that broke whether or not, like, how to anticipate films a little bit?
This is a great framing.
It's not even that solid of a framing, but I'm going to go with it anyway.
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like if you're an engaged online movie fan, and I mean that in like lowercase f, like, yeah, I'm a fan of movies and I read about them before they come out. It's like, this is the movie that either it is the woke mind virus become manifest, or like something that captures the total essence of Superman as a character and returns us to the wonder and glory of the 1940s, or is a 2.5 hour mess, or like a tight, cool new movie from James Gunn. Like, the reactions to this film have been so varied that it actually, I would say this makes me want to see it even more, even though I was probably like professionally like obligated and curious enough to want to go check it out anyway. Where are you at with this? And have you been paying much attention to the lead up to it?
I mean, I've gone through some permutations myself because I have been, ever since he got the gig, I have been on this microphone being like, I think this is going to be great. I think this is the right person for the job. I think it's the right take on the character, very much based on the
city for the actor who plays Superman to be from.
Listen, if we had, I'm not saying we had to cast a Jewish kid from the main line as Superman, but once we did, where do I report for duty? How many tickets can I buy in advance? I think it's very much, this has been in the ether as well, that like it was very much visually inspired by the Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely All-Star Superman. All in. And then as we got closer to the actual movie existing, there's a lot of dog content and also a lot of busyness, right? That like, I thought that the appeal of that comic book, The All-Star Superman, was that it was really reduced to its essence of what Superman is. And then you could sort of build up from there. What it seemed like we were getting, and we still may have gotten, is like we are just drop kicking you into the deep end of a brightly colored meta-human world. Yeah. Where it's very busy and all the stuff is going on. And thankfully not an origin story, but a very, very like in media res kind of thing. I started to back off a little bit. Then there's that very accidental leak embargo break of a guy being like, fuck this, only Zack Snyder understood the
that
raw
was for
physical
the Daily
power.
Beast. That was what was so funny about that.
Meaning
the leak was from the Daily Beast.
And do you think it's funny because the Daily Beast has long been like anti-Snyder and this was a zag
I don't
for
know
them?
historically where they stand on the Snyder cut, but
I don't know where anybody
bet,
stands on
like,
anything.
generally speaking, I find the Daily Beast to be like, whoa, that's cool. Unless
How is that different than the imitation of me you just did? What would I sound like writing for the Daily Beast? Be honest.
I wish Oasis would talk more.
There it is. Where's the banter? Why can't Oasis be
I
more
didn't
like...
pay $400 to hear these songs. I want to hear you guys chat.
Do you know what siblings really make me smile in concert? Tegan and Sarah.
She's fucking loving us today. This is great.
That's because she's just thinking about all the clips she's going to make.
She's going to have to make a super cut of all the times we do your voice. Your Daily Beast voice.
Hey, guys. If I address it, I address the whole thing to Alan in Leeds. You know, just like my like straw man Oasis fan.
Alan, I've spent a lot of time in your country.
Alan, put down the fullers for a second.
Yeah.
What are we saying? So
I was just curious whether you were pumped for this movie,
well,
and also like haven't you found it a bit confusing? Like, I mean, like I guess like
it's confusing, and I also think it's you could look at it this two ways. I think broadly this is a bummer, and it's a much larger topic that we've touched on in different ways, and obviously Sean and Amanda talk about frequently. Movies can't just be movies anymore; they have to be cultural events, and in order to be a cultural event, you have to have the valence of cultural events today, which, as we were just talking about, is content. It's teams. It's this versus that. Mm-hmm. It's like this movie represents my side, and whether it's my side about movies, about politics, about culture, whatever, it has to represent that. So then you have to literally, in this case, cape up to support it. So the division of this movie into like, you know, Snyder fans versus what's the word? People with taste, or see, I'm trying. This is. I think it's going great.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, which side of this movie are you on? I think all of that obscures the fact that very likely we will come in here on Monday and do the thing that Kaya will hate most, which is this is pretty good, and it's kind of messy, and it's not a great movie, but it might be a good experience, and it might have things to build on or things that we found repellent. But regardless, we're talking about it. But to get people in the theaters, it has to be much more than that. I do think that the lead up is confusing for people who are paying attention to it, because it is hard to separate the idea of this movie as James Gunn, the filmmaker's expression of what is true and great about both Superman and comic books generally, versus James Gunn, the partner of Peter Safran, the architect of the next 10 years of the DCU.
Who's like tweeting out like, I have spoken to Ryan Coogler, and we may be cooking something up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Which I mean is a way of engaging with and driving interest in your project. So I get it.
But that said, I can't pretend. I didn't bring my Dave Sushi hat, so I cannot pretend to be the voice of the people, you know, of like middle America today. But I did have some delicious mushrooms for breakfast.
It's a very reflexive episode we're recording here today.
I think we have to cultivate our base.
Yeah.
You know, I think that works in America. I get the sense, and I feel like the early tracking of how the movie is going to do supports this, that the rollout has been successful.
It's going to be a big hit, I think.
That the images, like just the still images, the poster, the billboards, just like of a handsome Jewish guy from the main line of Philadelphia's face, and like just look up, and like the colors and the way that it is playing nostalgia, the way Gunn is really good at this. It's using the rainbow font. It's using the John Williams score, but it doesn't feel like the Gus Van Sant version of Psycho. It's not like a frame for frame tribute to something. It feels like something relatively new, and there's a lot of bright colors and stuff, and that seems like it's going to work.
The fucking movies, man. I went to go see F1 last night because I wanted to get
so jealous
in IMAX before Superman took over IMAX screens, which I assume is going to happen. Dude, like packed house for a Wednesday 6:15. And Bill went and saw it the other night, and he was like, it's a packed house for a Tuesday at 10:15. It's like people are just like going to the movies.
So as the third chair of the big picture, where's the disconnect still? Because it's not just anecdotal that like, we've thrown this out a bunch of times, like, oh, you know, the New Bev and America Cinematheque and Vidiot's and local places here in LA are always filled for whatever they're doing in an exciting way. It's like Criterion Collection goes viral. Like Criterion has 1 million followers on Instagram. I can't imagine a world.
Is that because Liam and Noel went in the closet?
Do it. No. I fucking dare you.
A kid made this movie. I don't know how to do Manchester.
And Manchester's really hard.
I can in my private time do Liverpool, but I would not share it with people.
You can be a Scouser.
Kerry Condon from F1.
Yeah, you want to talk about that? Kerry Condon, listen, not to make everything a financial thing, but you have had Kerry Condon stocks since Leo was peddling
Kaczynski
them.
saw the vision. Pitt saw the vision.
Yeah.
CR saw the vision. You saw the vision.
Yeah, but like this is someone who is a working actor who is just like, luck would be me big break. And it was not.
Yeah.
It broke a bunch of horses instead.
This
And then
I don't know.
she's in Better Call Saul like constantly, but not particularly forcefully, right? She plays Mike's essentially
estranged daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
But here she is.
She's fixing cars.
Do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, like she is awesome in that movie.
But wait, answer my question though. What are movies are so back, but why can't we make them?
I honestly, I know this is a stupid answer. I honestly think it's like quality and it's word of mouth. I think it's like people coming out of Sinners. It's people coming out of 28 Years Later. It's people even coming out of Materialists and being like, I loved this, or I thought this was really provocative, or I thought that you got to go see it. You got to see it so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
That urgency and that feeling that like movies are some sort of like currency that you can, this is something to talk about at dinner. It's something to talk about at the office. It's something to chat about with friends. And I think that there was like, I think the event overtook the movie, an event movie for a while. And now it's like, no, you can make a really good movie and that can in of itself be an event. And I think that also, honestly, like, the IMAX experience is really, really powerful. Like to go to see that movie and it be that loud and it's Hans Zimmer synths for like 2.5 hours. You're like, I feel like I went to a rock concert. It was incredible.
I feel like it's the only IMAX movie I've ever actually seen in IMAX, I think, was when we saw Oppenheimer together. Yeah. The other thing about Superman that we'll talk about it more on Monday that I think is interesting, and I don't know if it's interesting to many people. I don't know how much this story has penetrated, but like to the degree to which people who work for or around the Warner Brothers Discovery Corporation who will say, not like on the record, but just casually say, if this movie doesn't work, like the lot is going to get sold. Like that, they're not being serious. I'm not trying to be aggregated, but like it's kind of this big shrug and be like, well, Superman and the Harry Potter show, like, they better work or else this whole thing collapses.
No pressure.
No pressure. I feel great. I think that's interesting. To the comic book point, which is also kind of a segue into Eternaut. One of the things that I love about the show, and we're not spoiling it yet, is the fact that it is 100% based on a comic book and is a comic book story. But whether it's due to budgetary limitations, production limitations, or creative vision, it is not over the top, even though the story is enormous. Mm-hmm. And it is often a question of scale. And I thought that one of the more interesting Superman reviews I read was by Owen Gleiberman, who we've been reading since he was the critic in Entertainment Weekly in the 90s.
Where is he now? Variety?
He's at Variety. And his review is really, really good and interesting and positive. But his lead is basically that we know what the worst parts of comic book movies, but I'm quoting him here, the most ironic aspect of comic book movies is that most of them aren't actually very much like comic books. They tend to be rooted in the hero's awesome prowess, the ability to zip through universes, smash objects, etc. But blah, 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 but how like physical and big these stories are.
Yes.
What's interesting about comic books is because there are no limits there's no budget as long as you draw it. It almost naturally, especially over the last few years, has refocused the storytelling eye on the more human stories happening in the midst of the enormity. Mm-hmm. Like they can do things like have a character this character was in the movies in the Doctor Strange sequel, but like America Chavez, whose power is she can punch holes in universes, but that's in some ways the least interesting thing about her.
I mean, you watch the last Spider-Man movie and it's like everybody was like, Marissa Tomei, like it's like people are still responding to the more human aspects of these movies.
But movies often are like, well, we can do this and we have the budget to do it, so we're going to be incredibly noisy first and we're going to make a movie. I mean, with Eternaut, like, is the appeal that it is about an alien invasion, or is it the appeal, I mean, for the developers, for the executives?
I think it's like a selling point. I think they're like,
for
great.
Sure.
But it's also, we can start to talk about the series a little bit. And I want to be mindful of the fact that people may have heard us talk about this show on Monday and have not watched the entire thing. So we'll try to keep our conversation.
I don't know how you kept it
fairly general.
Yeah.
How I kept what?
I don't know how, if you started it on Monday, I feel like odds are you're close to finishing it.
Yes, but I still don't want to spoil it for anybody
agree.
until it's a certain point. So what I will say, and I would say that there are 3 or 4 big twists that happen in the back half of this season, right? And we can get into those because that's like a really good way to talk about what happens in this series. But the remaining, like if somebody was like, why did you like the show? Those twists and those aspects of science fiction would be very far down the list. It would be about the physical, like the personal interactions between these people who are not quite all family, but are forced to come together.
Yep.
I think it would be the depiction of Buenos Aires in this state of ecological or environmental disaster. It would be the procedural aspects of like, okay, so if you can't go outside, how do you go outside? Or if you can't, how do you eat? What are you eating? What are you doing to pass the time? And then, as they start to realize that older electrical devices that aren't probably run by computers will work, that's fascinating just to see all the old tech come into play. And that also probably ties in to the actual time when the comic book was written. It's a very, I don't know if that's the case, but it's a very ingenious fix.
I'm
on the
really
part of the
curious
TV
about
show.
that, since the comic was made in the 50s when people didn't have cell phones and cars didn't have automated computer systems.
I guess broadly speaking, there's no real way to talk about the second half of these episodes this season without getting into it.
I think the last broad things I would say, the non-spoilery things, are I was dazzled by how true to the show's aesthetic, vision, and thematic point of view it stayed, even with wild swings into more excessive genre elements. I thought that Bruno Stagnaro, who directed it, is a phenomenal director of restraint and style, visual storytelling, in a monochromatic field of like making you feel anchored in with people that you may only have just met when you're talking about a visual field that is gray, sooty, covered in poisoned snow, and everyone is wearing essentially hazmat suits.
Dude, it's really difficult. They meet over the course of this season, like the main characters come across something like a dozen to 2 dozen different people that it's not unincumbent. Like it's incumbent on you to kind of be like, okay, that's this guy.
Inga wears that jacket. Yep.
Yeah, like there's these 2 old dudes at this church or whatever. And you got to keep that straight. Many people are wearing gas masks for most of the movie, and then it gets even more confusing as it gets deeper into the story, which we can talk about now. I mean, this is one of my favorite shows of the year. I would highly recommend it to anyone who's...
Last thing, it's been renewed.
Yeah.
So I think there probably are a bunch of people, even who listen to us, who are like, I'm not sure I'm ready to invest my chips in or whatever. Like, they're going to tell the whole story. There's a second season. It's been renewed. I think it's going to be 8 episodes to finish it out.
Cool.
So trust this one.
All right. So there are a couple of plot turns to address.
Let's talk about. Let's talk the big one.
Okay. So then the number one is that the ecological disaster that you assume is some sort of like, are the poles reversing? Is this finally we've melted some iceberg somewhere? It is in fact an alien invasion.
Yeah.
And the aliens are, at least initially, a kind of beetle-like extraterrestrial who are predatory, and when they attack people, wrap them up in a kind of spider web and drag them into a hovel that they've created. All of that stuff is very coolly...
What do they do with them there?
Well, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
The victims of that process then come back as body-snatched versions of themselves.
So wait, so that is true? That's what happened? Like,
yeah.
They're not eating them?
No.
They eat each other. Do you notice that?
I did.
That's rough.
The game is the game.
Is that your feeling?
That's what happens, man. I think that moment where the one beetle gets killed and all the other beetles feast on it,
They're like,
I was
sick
like,
food.
This is what's up. This is to get used to it.
Genuinely, did you feel like in that moment, did you know Trump was going to win again? In the sense where you're like, this is what we're up against?
This is the discipline?
Like, this is the MAGA discipline?
So yes, the victims then come back from their encasement.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet. So, I mean, when we first see that.
Yeah,
we know
first
that
we
as
see
viewers.
it and we're like, they're fucking killing these guys and wrapping them up in webs. Now, I, as a person who's seen Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, know being webbed up is not the end. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can make it through that. But
also, Game of Thrones, my guy, the one-eyed raven, wasn't he all webbed up and stuff for a long time?
That's right. Well, he was part of a tree, wasn't he?
Listen, it's been years.
The victims of that process then come back as body snatch versions of themselves with almost the same personality.
Well, shades of it.
I would say that they present as themselves, but then there are little elements, whether it's a personality characteristic change or lapses in memory that are noticeable to people who are close to them.
I think I've been webbed up,
So
honestly.
this difference is especially acute in Clara.
Okay,
who
wait.
is-
But before we start, we are recapping all the show.
I'm
every
I
episode.
said I was going to go through all the twists.
I want to talk about a twist at a time.
Okay. All right. I love it when you take the wheel. Go ahead.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I want to pause for a second because we left off with the show after 3 episodes and we were loving it. And then the 4th episode tips it into a different thing. And the 4th episode is when, at the end of the 3rd episode, oh no, these not nice couple, they get got by something. So we know something's out there. The way that the 4th episode is structured is so impressive. Like, it is definitely the standout episode just in terms of direction and action. And I can't get over the way that it builds its pace from Juan walking solo again to Tano showing up in the car and being like, we're not throwing away 40 years of friendship. And then he's like, it's actually 38 years, which made me feel like that's our vibe when the world ends. Because pedants got to be pedants, you know? And then they encounter the military. There's a big barricade on the bridge made by something.
Yes.
And they're like, let's follow the military. They've seen us. They start shooting. Wait, they're not shooting at us. And the way this is shot is super like Children of Men style.
Yes.
Which I also think of as Halo style, like video game style.
From your POV, yeah.
When the camera swings and the first time
what
we
was
see
first,
these
Children of
bugs.
Men or Halo?
In terms of my heart rankings?
No, in terms of like what came out first.
Halo.
So you think Quaron was like
What is this, Alo?
Master Chief? Yeah. Why does he sound like that?
I don't know. Oh, I was trying to make him sound cool. You do your imitation of Alfonso Cuarón writing an op-ed for the Daily Beast about the Xbox being better than...
Who were the bad guys in Halo? The Horde?
No, that was one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
But there was also there was like the big dog aliens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Big dog aliens.
Yeah.
Big dogs gotta eat. The Covenant? Is that it?
Come on!
Yes.
Let's go! Come on!
You know, there was a TV show about Halo. Did you know that?
I did.
You want to talk about it?
No, it was
Not
just
really.
like, that's not how I want to experience Halo.
You want to experience
I don't want
it?
to drive F1 cars, but I
Right.
want to watch F1.
You
I don't want to be like, tell me a long story about Halo. I want to fucking shoot at the
you
Horde.
want to be 4 Yinglings deep with Wu-Tang's The W playing, watching me play up to the part where the Horde comes, being like, it's a little scary right here. And you being like, actually, I can handle it. And then you writing an op-ed in my voice talking about how video games are too scary now.
The POV shots of the Beatles.
And so, because then when we actually see the bugs, it took me a second. I was like, oh.
I received that text message.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing this. And all respect to my Argentine brothers in the Viz effects department, but like it's okay. The design is cool and scary, but like in terms of perfectly integrating CGI creatures into the world, it was a little less smooth than some of the more expensive shows we were seeing. But what I really appreciated over the course of the episode was again, I've used this word like 3 times, the restraint that they use in giving us bug content that I think budgetarily they couldn't just keep having hordes of bugs dance across the screen.
Yeah.
So instead, seeing them in passing on top of the bridge, hearing them, seeing the after effects of them, being afraid of them,
Yes.
benefited the story so much and kept the focus where it always should be, which is on these very, very normal. I feel like I didn't articulate this well the other day when I was like, this show isn't woke in its casting. What I mean is everyone in the show is old and unsexy.
Yes.
And that makes a massive visual difference from the types of shows that we usually watch on Spike TV.
Yeah, and then there are so many little inventions, I'm sure, of the comic, but used to great effect in the show of like, you were mentioning like hiding the bugs a little bit. I think that they ripped the Band-Aid off and they're like, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
These bugs need to be running around. You have to see them. They have to be afraid of them.
And they're physically scary.
Yes. And then the bugs build that fucking like wall of cars to wall off the city. And that's that's where you were talking about like, oh, the noises. Like you can see like a car like moving a little bit. There's the Santa Claus balloon that kind of floats above the.
I believe I sent you the butterfly is the cinema.
It is.
JPEG. It
It
was
is
beautiful.
cinema. Okay, so then one of the ways that they kind of not allied, but like they get around like, okay, how often are we going to show a swarm of bugs running at people? Some of it happens at night, so it looks cooler. And then we start to get the people coming out of their imprisonment, their webbed up imprisonment, and they are different, and they are now working in some sort of concert with
the people.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about people coming out of their other kind of imprisonment.
Of the woke mind virus.
I mean, it's a long time coming. There were people, like, I think I stopped wearing a mask when we started doing video on this podcast. I think that was when I stopped wearing a mask. No, but there are people who are washing their mail like deep into 2021 and into 2022.
Yes.
Maybe it's for purposes of drama. Maybe they're just made of hardier stuff in South America, but like they went from everything outside is instantly killing everyone to, I guess if I break out this old Helly Hansen parka, I should be fine. That was real fast.
I know that for the production purposes, they shot this kind of right after the restrictions in Buenos Aires lifted. And so that was one of the reasons why they were able to get so many empty streets.
This was shot like still
23, I think.
No.
Yeah.
How long did it take to draw them bugs?
I mean,
wow.
But are you asking me like how long would it take for me to decide?
Yeah, like
to go outside.
Yeah, and be like, okay. I mean,
you'd be the mayor of indoors.
I'm the king of everything I see. Maybe I'll read Buddenbrooks and continue my Thomas Mann survey. I was so fun in early COVID.
I think that the thing that would be the biggest leap of faith for me happens, I believe, in episode 5.
Yeah,
when
it stopped snowing.
It stopped snowing, and I don't know if I have the courage to be the first homie to step out into the world without my mask on.
That's the thing.
I'll be second.
And also, I want to be respectful of everyone else, you know? Like, I'm in a community of the world. So that, like, even in, like, 22, when I would go running wearing, like, a little, like, neck gaiter or whatever, if I pass someone, I'd be like, you never know, you know?
Yes.
They were just like, I guess it's better now. It just happened real fast.
Yeah.
I respect it. Okay, yeah, so then we start to get the sense that, so you're talking about Clara. So much of the first half of the season is
looking for Clara.
And we know from the very opening moments, the cold open essentially of the show, that Clara was not where she said she was going to be. She was actually on her godfather Tano's boat, which she had taken out with 2 friends to party, basically.
Smoke cigs.
Just lead a very CR-coded existence. The sea, the darts, the preparedness.
Yeah.
And her sudden appearance feels completely disorienting, as it is to Juan, right? He says later to Lucas that, like, I felt like you were all putting me on, that this is somehow some sort of staged performance. And again, the thing I admire most about the show was the way the behind the scenes structure and the story itself complemented each other. That with a 6-episode season, another episode of Juan and his ex-wife just walking through this hellscape in an absolutely pyrrhic attempt to find one person who is probably not alive would have been diminishing returns. They yada-yada'd the story in a way that, and maybe this is how it happens in the comic, we don't know, but they yada-yada'd the story in a way that then pivoted the story itself.
Yes.
Like, wow, this is too good to be true. It's a miracle, they say.
It is too good to be true.
It is too good to be true. It's a wonderful example of the creators leaning into whatever limitations they may have had in terms of budget or time or space.
That's a really good observation about that. I mean, like, I hadn't really thought about the way that actually hinges the entire story to being more suspicious of people like Clara or Lukey or whoever.
When he wanders off. But there's also the other piece of it, which I don't know if you shared as well, which was a little bit of audience relief, that we didn't have to show everything. That if it really was Clara, if she really remembered that he played cards and went there, it's a little convenient, but it's better for the real estate we have of 6 hours to get moving and get to the other place. And there were a bunch of examples of that where I realized, like 5 episodes in, that Juan and then Tano have left their spouses or ex-spouses and friends multiple times. without any very American scenes of, you are my rock, I will be back for you, mi vida.
Yeah.
Like, they just left.
I kind of took it to be like, these are middle-aged men who finally have like some adventure in their life. I'm being completely serious.
It's true.
I feel like that guy Tano is like, I get lost in my devices. I get lost in my little Mr. Fix-It stuff, in my reading, in my science. And now all of a sudden, everything that I've been studying is kind of become real, and I can actually apply some of my passions and obsessions to the real world. And he's like, I don't really want to go home and argue about who gets the soup. I want to be out here in the world.
It benefits us. Like, by the time you get to the 6th episode, there is a feeling that we get very, very rarely, I think, especially in this particular age of television, where a little bit of a, wait, did the needle jump the groove? Did I skip an episode? Did I miss something? And what you're actually experiencing is just economical storytelling. Like, the way that in the journey to Campo de Mayo, which is the big military installation where they head, apparently being manipulated to head by the end of the season, there's just, without paying much attention to it, the younger people in this found family have really gravitated to each other. And Inga and Pablo, and then also the Boy Scouts from the church, like, they are now basically their own clan. And we didn't need to see that forming. We've met them, we get it, and we move on. And I found that to be so, so refreshing. Even when they go on their big mission in the 6th episode.
To the train.
To the train, to the radio, to whatever. I'm not saying the show didn't explain what they were doing. I'm saying that when caught up in my first viewing of it, I missed a couple details. And so by the time
that was a little bit, because it's dark, and I think because of the speed with which they move through it, there seems to be, like, Tano is resistant. They asked Tano to go downtown, which is infested with bugs, to send out a distress signal using a radio tower that they have there. And like, he's the only one who understands this sort of more classic vintage radio technology. They're going to send like a bunch of soldiers with him. They do an awesome like train busting through the wall of cars really move, cool. But then suspiciously like the bugs are not chasing them at all. And I thought that there was some elements of that, like the train conductor who was like, you didn't trust me, but now you can trust me because I'm the train conductor. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess I trust you. I was a little confused. That was where, whoa, there's been a lot of people at different like meetups at the various points that are now showing up here.
But I didn't mind it.
No,
because I was enjoying the experience. And then Stagnaro does a really good job of like walking us through his visual story.
Yes.
Like the way that it's revealed to us that we have seen a blank-faced girl at the end. We have seen her before. That she's the woman on the train who writes Ayuda in, I'm sorry, for my friends in Buenos Aires, Ayuda in lipstick. Are you crying or laughing?
No. Just thinking about Carrie Condon fixing cars.
You just went in on it. Aw. Like that was a really nice little detail, little anchoring detail. And the like, I also just like that it ran right at some stuff. Now we haven't. I'm really looking forward to reading the comic. For people who are interested in it, the great publisher, indie publisher, Fantagraphics has published an English version of it in the past. And if you go to their website, you can pre-order it because they are with good reason, they are reprinting it. Good. So it will be out again soon. But there are clearly elements from the story in this that were non-negotiable. It's also very fun to actually think about the history of Argentina and the history of the author of this comic and think about why he might find his friends and neighbors coming back slightly changed or afraid to talk about things or unable to remember things, scary and relevant. And then there's just some stuff that it's like, well, this is the story we're telling, and what's the best version of it that makes sense with our visual and tonal language? And to me, the best expression of that is the hand of the master alien, the puppeteer alien, which is revealed so subtly and revealed in a shot that makes it look like a blue hand.
Yeah, and that was actually quite Lynchian.
It was super Lynchian. And then the hand sort of turns and flicks, and there's many fingers. Mm-hmm. And it was unsettling. It wasn't like, oh, sick, or whoa, the aliens are coming. It was disturbing.
Yeah.
And haunting and subtle. And it didn't leave me, the season left me being like, man, Juan's really in it. Maybe not for the first time. It's a little bit confusing where we're headed next. Yeah, that would be
the last twist, which is that Juan seems convinced now that he has actually not just having flashes or visions. He has done this.
It's deja vu.
This has happened before. Which is another like history repeating itself kind of
He's had to do this before.
indication of it, like, or of its actual real world ties and influence of the comic to the actual history of Argentina.
And also it's just the decisions that seem subtle but are so appropriate to this. And I think there's something to be studied here. It's like it doesn't leave us with an army of bugs massing on the horizon or encircling Campo de Mayo or the reveal of the 8-fingered space
I don't even
fish
think
god
they
or whatever.
actually get into the River Stadium, right?
No.
Yeah,
No, we don't even know.
yeah.
We don't even know. It ends with our very human hero being like, "What?"
Yeah.
Which is, frankly, how we all feel every day as
Yeah.
middle-aged men
Yeah.
in 2025.
I cannot recommend this show highly enough. I hope people check it out. Can't wait for the second season. Wonder if they shot it pretty much as a big block and are working on like where did we do season 1, season 2? Because I wish like this was like what 3 Body Problem had done. You know, like I wish they had.
I really agree. Do you mean in terms of like?
I think in terms of the release schedule, certainly, but also there's parts of this that I wish 3 Body had kind of adapted. Now, 3 Body Problem has major leaps of time and like reality within the show itself, but there was I was thinking about Dark and I was thinking about other shows like Revenant you brought up, but I was thinking about shows that could learn something from the way Eternaut did its stuff.
I'm also curious, and maybe this is a conversation we could have with creators of some of these types of shows, is like, what is the skill set that you bring to it and what is the passion that you bring to it? And for all of the flaws of 3 Body Problem, of which there are many, a lot of the fondness I have for the show was that I understood why D.B. Weiss and David Benioff did it, like why they were the ones to do it. Because as someone who has started and not finished the novel, it's unfilmable. Not because it's set in China, but because it is so omniscient, jumping from place to place and time. And they were like, we're going
eons, right? Like, yeah.
Yes, we're going to make this show about a couple of mates in London, which, first of all, I was in on that. But we're going to focus the whole story in these characters and then build the story outward from that. That is a choice, and that is a skill that they brought to it. Stagnaro has a different skill set and a different interest in the material, but and he is helped by the fact that I think the mandate was tell the story of this comic book, and we'll, if all works out, we'll give you this many hours to do it in, 14 hours. Whereas the balancing act, and this goes to our Slow Horses conversation, which is like the more critical production decisions and vision decisions you can have early, the better. 3 Body Problem seems like it was conceived of, hired, put into motion as one thing, which is this is going to be our Game of Thrones. This is going to be for Netflix.
This will be on for 5 or 6 years.
This is going to be on 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and we're going to just, entrance and entertain the planet with this next great saga. And then somewhere between that announcement and the very weird muted, okay, we'll make a second season, it became like, we'll let these guys play out the string and we'll negotiate over we'll give them $200 million more to make, what would that be for them, 3 episodes?
Right.
But jokes aside,
they
changed what it was.
You wonder whether going back and being like, hey, Stranger Things, you're going to be on for 6 seasons, changes how they make Stranger Things. Because they kept trying to top themselves with special effects, which I think is why it takes so long to finish these seasons now. So very, very interesting to see whether once we get through like the Paramount merger, post, Superman, Warner Brothers, like HBO Max is back, Disney, all these places as they go into 26, as they go into 27, do they maybe make bets that are like, I think this could be easily a double. And if we do it right, it's like a homer. But let's not start thinking like every night has to be a sellout. Like we can kind of pace ourselves into this a little bit.
Yeah, that kind of thinking.
But we're committed. We're here for a couple of seasons.
We're not really, this industry has never been particularly good at that, but especially now when, the things are commissioned for one service and then are released on a service that didn't exist when the thing was commissioned. But I will also say that looking internationally for this sort of thing it's not just viable. It's viable creatively, clearly, but
obviously economically.
But economically, because this might not be true, but the reported budget for season 1 of Eternaut on Netflix that we loved, my one budget thing is like the first appearance of the bugs made me go, that's it?
Yeah.
The budget apparently was $15 million US for the series. That is considerably less.
That's like an episode of Shrinking.
Yes, essentially. Last of Us episodes, I think, I don't know if this is officially or unofficially, are $20 to $25 million each.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Make your stuff in Argentina. That's what we're saying.
I think we should make our stuff in Argentina.
Andy, lovely to see you. We'll be back on Monday.
Mhm.
Only one show next week because this is Spotify Wellness Week next week. So get well.
Is it
to you?
is it for everyone, or is it just me because of my corrosive takes?
Because of your toxic social media.
Is that the problem?
Thank you to Kaya. Thank you to John. We'll be back on Monday. Everybody have a great weekend.
I noticed you thank Kaya. My thanks. We'll see.